As people start working with SG Financial, they really find out quickly that the experience they have through our Vista process is much different than the experience that they've been given over the years with their current advisory experience. And it really leads people to determine what they really need out of their financial advisor. Today, I'm going to outline some top reasons why I think you should end up firing your financial advisor. I'm also going to outline some obstacles that come to people as they consider changing their advisor that they currently have, and how these obstacles can actually prevent them from getting and reaching those goals they want to have in retirement. So, with that said, let's outline the top reasons why I believe you should fire your financial advisor. One of the top reasons you should fire your financial advisor is that you don't have a plan. You may not have a plan, but maybe you have an idea of how your investments are, an idea of why you have the life insurance, but you have all these bits and pieces. You may have certain annuities here, other retirement accounts there, a Roth account here, but you don't have an overarching comprehensive plan. This is really problematic when you look at things like distribution planning, when you look at income planning, understanding year after year where the income sources come from, and how you plan to solve for income shortfalls year after year in retirement. Do you have a plan for your estate? Do you know if the right accounts are titled in the right ways? All of these tasks are really important to get accomplished in your retirement planning. And there are tasks that your financial advisor should be responsible for, and there are tasks that you should be responsible for, things that only you can do. This is where having a comprehensive plan is vital to your retirement financial success. The other reason why you should consider firing your financial advisor is the relationship that they not only have with you, but it's the relationship that they have with your spouse. If a lot of the communication is geared towards the spouse because they're mostly in charge of the finances, but when it comes to your communication and your goals, you're not really being heard, then this might be a good opportunity to change how you're allocated in terms of if the assets are with your husband's financial advisor and maybe you want to switch to a different advisor. While these things can be challenging because the assets are really held among the household, it may be a good first stage to really develop better results with the new advisor that's more aligned with your goals. You also need to consider that the average spousal death gap, where you're widowed, either your husband or your wife is widowed, is 6 to 8 years. That's a long time. And it's especially long as you consider legacy. Your advisor could quite possibly need to be coordinating assets with your beneficiaries at the last surviving spouse. And this is where relationship really comes into play. The other reason why you may want to fire your financial advisor is that they're focused on just one key area of your retirement. Maybe they're focused on investment solely. Back in the day, the retirement planning industry wasn't really focused on planning, they're focused on trading. 10, 20 years ago, access to financial products like stocks, bonds, and mutual funds were closely held with special people, people that had significant assets to be able to trade. And now, with modern technology, you can make a trade through apps like Robinhood or Morgan Stanley or even your bank app. It's accessible to all. So having an advisor that just helps you make a trade or recommends this or that stock is an old industry standard that no longer applies. Your advisor should be really focused on the goals and the outcome and how those investments are aligned with what you'd like to accomplish in your retirement. And that's a whole different skill. And if your advisor is still just focused on the old way, you could be missing out. You could have a more efficient retirement without having to focus in on that retirement trading middleman. The other reason why you should consider firing your advisor is they don't give you straight answers. When it comes to a tax efficient retirement, maybe they don't give you a straight answer and maybe they just recommend you reach out to your CPA or reach out to your H&R Block representative or reach out to your enrolled agent for your tax filing for any Roth distribution or contribution questions. And that's not really good for your overall retirement plan. They should be that quarterback. They should be like that primary care doctor that's working with specialists in your retirement to make sure a virtual family of office is all working towards your goals. This is their responsibility, not your responsibility. While there are some tasks that I mentioned that you are responsible for, sometimes it's tiling of certain accounts that your advisor doesn't have access to. Those things need to be done by you. But these activities should really be fostered by the advisor themselves to make sure that your plan is brought together and that you're addressing those needs that are both long term and short term. Now, the last one that people often overlook is time horizon. Now, we're not talking about time horizon with your investments. We're talking about time horizon until your advisor retires or is 6 feet under. Now, if you're looking at your retirement and thinking that your advisor may not work much longer, then chances are you will have a forced transition. This is where a new advisor comes in and buys the practice. You may or may not get along with them or really find yourself working with them in the same regard. This is when you should look in advance and make the transition when it's more easy to make. That means that you consider making a transition in your earlier stages in retirement where you have your mental acumen and your financial acumen in place. Because year after year, studies have been conducted that you lose about 6.5% of your financial acumen as you age. There's no real sense in making a major transition with an advisor in your later stages of retirement. I recommend you look at these transitions earlier in your retirement because that's when you'll be able to make the transition more easily. And the last reason why you should consider firing your advisor is they're not leveraging the current technology that's available to you to dramatically enhance your experience with your advisor, to make timely corrections in terms of your investments, to make timely corrections in terms of your taxes and your income. All of these things can change very quickly, and the rules change every single year. So having software and a technology stack that allows you to have the best in planning by leveraging these things and also making sure you have a good, solid relationship is critical to your retirement. One final area where people also overlook is the process. At SG Financial, we have what's called the Vista process. While other advisors may have different processes, maybe the process does not work for you. You see, I have a friend, he wanted to lose 20 pounds in 90 days. That was a huge, huge goal for him. And what he ended up doing was he hired a nutritionist, he hired a trainer at the gym, he worked out, he ate right. He got to the tail end of his goal and he was just about a week away. He just needed to lose 2 more pounds and he quit. I called him on the phone. I said, John, like, what's up? You just quit. You're at the finish line. You almost reached your goal. He said, yeah, I had a lot of success, more than I thought I would. The problem is I was so miserable. I couldn't do it another day. You see, the goal was genuine. The goal was real, but the process that he wanted to experience during that was not even worth reaching the goal. So if it's painful, if you're not a financially inclined person and the process with getting these things accomplished is something you dread, something that you really don't want to do, you won't really reach your goals if you're dreading it like the way you think. So an advisor should lay off that load. They should make it easier for you to accomplish that goal. And the process to do those things should be in line with the type of retirement planning journey that you want to be a part of. You know, we meet with clients all the time who end up making an upgrade to their advisory experience, and they still struggle with considering that conversation on what it would look like as they inform their advisor over the years that they're going to part ways. One thing to remember that this transition can often cause some friction, but it's not what you would think. Transitions usually happen in the modern day and technology very seamless. When the right paperwork and acknowledgments are made, then these transitions from one advisor to the next happen seamlessly. The old advisor, their name and setup gets taken off the account, and the new advisor gets put on. This often happens without the approval of the advisor. It just comes from the approval of yourself. There is no conversation if you don't want to have that conversation with your advisor in notifying them that you're moving on. Now, this really is a particular strain for people when they have built relationships with their advisors over the years. And what I always tell people, they should be more concerned about their assets, the growth of their assets, the utilization of their assets, and what they need versus the relationship that is a more interpersonal level because they're a friend. Maybe it's the golf buddy of your husband. Whatever the case, while those interpersonal relationships are important, they're not the sole reason why you stay with an advisor. It's also not the sole reason why you just continue on because you're worried about hurting someone's feelings. These are your assets. You worked hard for these assets over the years, and you deserve to have a retirement plan that's well rounded and that is aligned with your retirement objectives. I hope this helps with understanding how your advisor is currently delivering those results for you and the relationship and the process that you have with them. If you'd like to learn more about how SG Financial can help, visit sgretire.com.